All right, let's just dive right into this explainer. Today, we're pulling back the geopolitical curtain to look at the incredibly visceral, day-to-day reality of life under the world's most terrifying dictatorship. We are talking about North Korea, officially known as the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Though, as we're going to see pretty quickly, just slapping the word democratic on your name definitely doesn't make it true. We're going to look closely at exactly how this government attempts to control literally every single aspect of human existence. I want you to imagine, just for a second, being born into a literal living hell. That's exactly what happened to Shin Dong-hyuk, and his harrowing description of political prison camp 14 really sets the stage for us here. Shin was born inside a prison camp in 1981, and he grew up in utterly horrific conditions. I mean, he survived on meager corn porridge, sometimes having to eat grass and rats just to stay alive. And the rules of his world were incredibly grim. Try to run away, you're shot. Hear someone else planning to run away and fail to report it, you are executed. Now, how exactly does someone get born into a prison? Well, it's because of this unbelievable guilt by association law. Basically, one political crime condemns a person, their children, and their grandchildren. The government decided Shin's blood was impure simply because his uncle had fled to South Korea. Because of that one relative's actions, multiple generations of his family were locked away. It's a deeply chilling concept that guarantees absolute, paralyzing fear. One misstep doesn't just ruin your life, it completely destroys your entire family's future.
Part 1. Born into a prison.
To really grasp this extreme geographic and economic isolation, just picture the Korean peninsula at night. If you look at satellite imagery, you'll see China and South Korea just glowing with bright lights and development. But right there in the middle, it is a complete void of pitch darkness. Citizens are actually accustomed to going to sleep at 7 p.m. because there is simply no electricity. They can't read at night, they can't watch TV, they are completely enveloped in the dark, both literally and figuratively.
Part 2. Roots of the regime. So there's this massive, tragic, historical whiplash here. North Korea was actually once economically ahead of its neighbors before a devastating collapse triggered complete systemic paranoia. After World War II, the peninsula was divided, and North Korea adopted a communist model with heavy support from the Soviet Union. Believe it or not, by 1980, they had a higher per capita GDP than India and China. But then, the Soviet Union collapsed in the 1990s. The cheap oil and food just vanished. The economy totally crashed, leading to a catastrophic man-made famine where up to 2 million people starved to death. And to survive that crisis, the regime clamped down harder than ever before.
Part 3. Micromanaging daily life. Think about this. Your individuality is completely erased, right down to the fact that there's a strict mandate of only 15 government-approved hairstyles for men and 15 for women. If you want a haircut in North Korea, you literally select from a visual menu, and you absolutely won't find Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un's distinctive haircut on that list, because no one else is permitted to have it. The state even produced a propaganda series claiming that having long hair actually reduces a person's intelligence.
And it definitely doesn't stop at hair. The regime views Western fashion as a literal cultural invasion. They micromanage people's bodies so intensely that specific clothing cuts and even minimal makeup are heavily criminalized. You can't dye your hair. You can't wear blue jeans, ripped jeans, or skinny jeans. Women aren't allowed to wear red lipstick. The government is genuinely terrified that if citizens start to appreciate foreign fashion or capitalist aesthetics, they might actually stop revering their own leadership. So you're probably wondering, how on earth does a state actually police blue jeans and hair dye across millions of citizens? I mean, it sounds like an impossible, almost comical task, right? But the reality is severely punishing. Well, there is a literal fashion police. Seriously, state authorities exist purely to ensure citizens never deviate from the socialist lifestyle. These enforcers roam around public spaces, keeping a secret watch. And if you're caught wearing clothes that break the rules, they will physically cut the fabric right there in public. They'll hit you with fines, or they might even throw you straight in jail. And this intense micromanagement bleeds right into technology, too. Just imagine your smartphone taking a random screenshot right now and sending it directly to the government. That's daily life there. The local internet requires government permission to even use. Librarians verify your fingerprints every 5 minutes. And smartphones are hard-coded to screenshot your activity. There is no global internet for the masses, just a heavily censored internal network. You can't make international calls, and you definitely can't just download apps. You have to go to a physical store for government-approved software. It's a level of digital suffocation that is just almost impossible to comprehend.
Part 4. The machinery of fear. To maintain this absolute submission, they use something called the songbun system. It's a brutal hierarchy that decides your marriage, your career, and even your food rations based purely on your family's political loyalty. If you're lucky enough to be in the core class, you might live in the showcase capital of Pyongyang. But if you're deemed hostile, you are banned from coming within 50 kilometers of the capital. And worse, the secret police forces those in the hostile class to spy on each other, even their own family members, which totally destroys any possibility of trust within the society. And for those dumped in that hostile class, the destination is usually one of the country's 5 to 6 political prison camps, where crimes against humanity are committed on an industrial scale. Escape almost certainly means death. We are talking about an estimated 80,000 to 120,000 people subjected to modern-day slavery. Inmates are working in mines and on farms for up to 18 hours a day. The starvation is so extreme that desperate prisoners eat animal fodder or scour the dirt for fallen grains. And if you even touch the perimeter fences like Shindongik's friend did, you are electrocuted instantly.
Part 5. Cracks in the system.
Just when it feels completely suffocating, a silent grassroots revolution is actually starting to take hold. Check this out. Because men are locked into mandatory, extremely low-paying government jobs, women have basically taken over the survival of their families by running black markets. Government salaries for men crashed decades ago, often equaling the cost of just 7 to 9 kilograms of corn for an entire month. But because married women aren't forced into those state jobs, they stepped up during the famines, trading goods to keep their families alive, and completely shifted the economic dynamic of the entire country. These black markets are called jangmadang. They were born out of the horrific 1990s famine, but today, they're the primary engines for smuggling illegal USB drives filled with South Korean media. They aren't just selling food and medicine anymore, they're selling information. The jangmadang have become these thriving hubs where citizens learn about the freedom and better quality of life in the outside world, completely bypassing the state's propaganda. And people will go to terrifying lengths just to watch a foreign movie. We're talking risking 12 years of hard labor, or even public execution, just to get a glimpse of the outside world. People use these cheap Chinese video players called notels. They huddle in the dark, windows shut tight, volume turned down to a whisper. The government actually does sudden electricity cuts to try and trap DVDs inside the players, so people transition to easily hidden USB sticks. The desire to see the truth literally outweighs the very real threat of death. And it is building into this unstoppable force. Get this, an astounding 98% of defectors who owned USBs were consuming illegal anti-government media. This exposure totally shatters the illusion that North Korea is a paradise and the outside world is a disaster. Plus, because watching these movies is highly illegal, citizens have to watch them together, which requires immense trust. This shared act of rebellion is actively curing the societal distrust that the government has spent decades engineering. So ultimately, all that forced mistrust, it's being dismantled by the simple unifying act of sharing the truth. It really leaves us wondering just how long this fragile empire of fear can withstand the human desire for freedom. When even a smuggled soap opera can act as a catalyst for a silent revolution, it shows that no matter how intensely a totalitarian state attempts to micromanage the human spirit, it can never fully extinguish it. It's definitely something to think about the next time you freely open an app, choose your own haircut, or just speak your